In this episode of the How to Do Your 20s podcast, we're going to be talking about how you can perform better, how you can increase your health so you can become a better active in your day-to-day life. And on top of that, we're going to talk a little bit, as always, about the entrepreneurial journey of Nick from New Vision, who helps people perform at their peak and helps them get to that stage. So first off, Nick, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me, Travis.
So first off, let's get started. How did you get involved in this field? What inspired you to help people out with their health?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for me, I remember I was working a job. I'd been entrepreneurial all my life. I mean, I remember getting in trouble in school for selling soda and CDs. Like I ended up getting sent home, and so from school and gotten all kinds of trouble. So I've been in an entrepreneurial spirit all my life, really. And so when I was in my teens, I started a sign business where we did, graphics and T-shirts and things like that, and road signs. And there was a salesman who worked at my dad's company, and I started talking to him, and he's like, "Well, you like what you do?" I'm like, "I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it works out for now, right?" And he was probably like 55 years old or so, let's say. And he goes, "Well, I'll tell you what." He's like, "You work for a long ass time, your whole life. So you better figure out what you want to do, and you better really like it, because life is long, and you spend a lot of time of it working. So you better learn to enjoy it, whatever it is that you're doing, or do something you want to enjoy." And so, I really started thinking about that conversation I had with him, and it was just so like sporadic. He was sitting in his truck. I was, just outside, walking across the parking lot, and we stopped and started talking. But that conversation really made my wheels start turning. And, I started just brainstorming, like, man, what is it that I want to do? What is it that I want to do? Well, for one, I decided like I wanted to have a certain level of income. I wanted to make a good living one day and provide for myself in a good way and my family. And then I also wanted to help people. I wanted to live a life helping people. Now, there's many ways you can help people. I mean, you could become a successful entrepreneur, selling candy, and make a lot of money and help people. However, to me at the time, it meant actually going through and getting an education in health and becoming a doctor. And so that's what I ended up pursuing at that time, because that's what was helping. That's how I would help people. And that's also how I would make a good living.
That's awesome. And so, I mean, did you ever have any health issues, or why health of all things, I guess?
Well, it's just interesting because growing up, I had, the different doctors that I had went to, and I had a lot of respect for them, and I thought it was really cool what they got to do, but I was not by any means, the Mr. A student loving school, not even close. In high school, I actually did a school to work program so I could leave at like 1 in the afternoon and go to work. And it was a program where it allowed you to more or less, get an education in how to work and in maybe a particular industry. And so my school that I went to offered that. And so I did that because it just got me out of school, because I loved to work. I loved working with, just being in the field and working with clients and selling things. I loved that whole aspect, but I hated school. So I wanted to go originally down the doctorate route, but when I found out how much schooling was involved, I looked at that and I was like, hell no, there's not a chance that I'm doing that. And so I didn't. I went to school for business. I started a business schooling. I went for, I think it was about 6 months, and I was like, this is so boring. Like, I can't do this. And so it just didn't even like begin to interest me, because I grew up in a business family where I was literally working 40 hours a week when I was 12 years old. I just loved it. Instead of staying at home and doing things that normal kids would do at 12 years old, I liked going to work with my dad, who owned a grocery store. And so, So, for me, like I went to this business school and I'm like, these guys don't know what they're talking about. This isn't how it is. And, I just thought like I was totally disenchanted by the whole thing. And then, along with being disenchanted with business school and then, having that conversation with that guy and really digging deep as to what I was going to do for like a lifetime, right? I mean, you're going to work. I mean, I don't know. You might know this statistic, but I mean, the average person, I mean, what do they work like 50 years of their life or something? So, I mean, if you're going to work 50 years of your life, you better have something you really enjoy. And so that's why I went down the route that I did. The schooling still didn't sound any sexier then at that time, but I decided that I was just going to, tough it out and do it because hey, you know what? What's 8 years compared to 50? And so, if you're able to do what you love to do the rest of your life, then those couple years of your life where things aren't so great, well, then who cares?
Absolutely. So I want to shift gears here a little bit and talk about your practice and what kind of actionable steps, and this is obviously a very broad question, so I'm going to allow you to take it in whatever direction you want, but what kind of actionable steps can us as the listeners or me take to increase our health and actually increase our level of performance at work or whatever task we're trying to do?
Yeah, good question. So I'll start with how can you increase your level of performance? So, you know, in this podcast, we're speaking to 20-year-olds for the most part. Is that true or
Yeah,
no?
yeah, that's true.
Okay, gotcha. So, I mean, as someone who's young, you have to start taking your health seriously because more young people today are having health concerns than probably ever before, or than have had health concerns in a long time, because just the food that people are eating, the lifestyle that they're living, lack of sleep, eating complete garbage all the time, fast food, those all those different things that are just crushing their health. And so you have to start taking your health seriously at a young age because you don't want to be in your late 20s and start developing health problems or 30s, 40. It doesn't matter. Like you don't want to be a 50-year-old guy who falls over from a heart attack. Like, if you want to be competitive in the business world and you want to be competitive in the entrepreneurial world or whatever route you decide to go in life, and let's say you just want to be the best at it. I don't care if you want to be a librarian. If you want to be the best librarian in the planet, you have to be able to show up. And if you can't show up on a daily basis, then you're just going to get beat out every day by competition, right? I mean, like even if you're working trying to climb the corporate ladder, but Joe over there takes care of himself and you don't, Joe's going to show up with way more energy, way more focus. He's not going to miss work like you are, let's say, and he's just going to be able to show up on a level that you can't compete with if you're not taking care of your health. So I really feel that if you want the competitive edge in what you do in life, then you really have to put your health first. And without a doubt, I'm not saying that success is made or broken off of the way that you treat your health, but it certainly could be. And so, putting your health first is absolutely crucial. I know that, for me, like I said before, when it came to education, I wasn't the smartest guy out there. And even when it comes to business, I'm not the smartest guy out there, right? However, I can work stinking hard. I can work really hard and I can work really long hours. And so, sometimes like you might not be the biggest brain in your industry, but you may be able to outwork people all day long. You may be able to come up with creative ideas where, they don't. Who knows? Like you have to look at whatever competitive edge you have and take that route. But your health is absolutely very important when it comes to that. So things that are very essential to your health are things such as exercise, right? Like, you need to exercise. It's actually built into our genetic code that we require exercise as human beings. Exercising is very important. Eating a good quality diet is very important. So, If you're, let's just say the paleo diet's a good diet to follow. My wife and I, we have actually wrote a cookbook called the Heal Yourself Cookbook, which is a good diet to follow. Those are two essential things. Exercise 5 days a week, is pretty good, and optimal. Eating a good quality diet, and then also, lastly, is just basic supplementation. So let's say that you're a healthy guy and you want to start exercising and you want to start eating better. But the other thing that you need to do is take the basic nutrients that are required for life. Your body requires nutrients as a fuel source in order to maintain and constantly rebuild your body. So you need to take a good multivitamin with a mineral that actually provides those nutrients for you. You need to support brain function, right? Like, talk about not being able to think clearly and all these neurodegenerative problems that people are starting to develop. You have to support your brain. Your brain requires nutrients, such as the good omegas and fish oils and DHA. And then doing things like taking a good probiotic to support the gut. And so you can do all these different things. And if you are really cognizant of your health for a long period of time, you're going to be able to go into your 30s and your 40s, and you're just going to keep performing. Like, we see so many people get worn down, and let's say even like someone like Steve Jobs, for instance, right? I mean, I've read his whole life story, and he was a nut when it came to a lot of different things when it comes, like, let's say health. Like, he would go on like juice fasts and all these different things. But you look at someone like him, and he died at a young age. Like, he was young for the most part, and it's kind of sad because he built this crazy successful company. However, he died at a young age. And so, like, you don't want to even like build your career, or you don't want to build your life at the expense of your health. And so, putting your health first is very important, and following some of those basic guides are absolutely essential. I mean, those are the essentials for life. When people tell me that I don't exercise, or I don't take any type of vitamins, I'm just like, well, what are you doing? Like, what are you waiting for? To just find out that you have some serious health condition that you have to take a prescription drug for the rest of your life. It's just not worth it.
So actually, that kind of brings up an interesting point. The multivitamin thing is something that I've heard kind of debated back and forth. Like, one thing that I do instead of a multivitamin is just take a greens supplement or something like that and try to get as much of the nutrition through my diet as possible. But it seems like you're much more on the side of taking multivitamin slash mineral. Why is that the case?
Well, I'm not opposed to taking a good quality green drink either. I mean, if it has a good, for instance, like, my company, we produce multivitamins, we produce probiotics, we produce, good quality brain supplements, one called NeuroBoost that is an incredible supplement. And so we are on that side of things, but we are also on the side of, we have a powder called Power Plus Fruits and Greens, and it's incredible. It's just loaded with vitamins and probiotics, and it has all these different nutrients in it as well. So I'm not leaning more towards one than the other. I wouldn't be willing to have the debate that one works better than the other, because a lot of times that's just debated by marketers more or less. But we actually offer both of them, and so I'm not on one side or the other. I think that whatever you decide to do is fine. I actually offer the one just because some people can't swallow a vitamin, and so we just have a powder drink, and they can mix that up. It tastes great, and they do well with that. So I don't think one works better than the other necessarily. It's just your choice. Now, for me, I take vitamin form. I mean, I'm an athlete. I exercise and work out and train at a high level, and I also just perform in my daily life at a high level. So I would I personally like to be able to take the capsule and know exactly what I'm taking and be able to modify that daily. I personally even run tests on myself, so I know like is this particular supplement not working? So for instance, like vitamin D, there's different forms of it, so I would know if it's not working because I mean I live in Michigan, we have cloud cover 50% of the time, right? So
Yeah.
like I would know, and so I if there was some reason that I thought it wasn't working, I would know through actually scientific based lab testing.
That's awesome. So you get your blood tested and like for vitamin and minerals and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, so I do it with all my clients that I work with, but I also, I mean, because that's the services that we offer where we do blood testing. We actually figure out what's going on with them from a scientific perspective, and then we actually create a holistic plan for them to get well. So, some of the testing that I've recently done on myself, for instance, is tests to see like what kind of sensitivity I have on for different food, what type of nutrients that I am deficient in. Also, toxicity testing to see, do I have a lot of toxic buildup in my body? And then another test that I recently did is a test to look at my gut and how my gut is functioning, which is a very complex process with probiotics and or good bacteria, bad bacteria, and that whole gut system, it plays a huge part of your overall health. So it's good to monitor that as well. And so yeah, we offer a whole array of testing here, and I'm a big fan of testing because you can't manage what you can't measure, and I think probably what got me down that road so much is that I saw just family members get sick and go to the more natural health care practitioner, and they would just put them on like 50 supplements, just kept throwing supplements at them, trying to just cover up some symptom and hit something and get something right. And I just didn't agree with that. I was like, no, you got to go in with like a direct approach and really have a scientific perspective on how you're tackling these different conditions. So I'm a big fan of testing and versus just throwing supplementation at people.
Absolutely. So with all that testing, have you seen certain correlations, seen certain patterns that kind of repeat themselves? Like anything that we should be looking out for?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to when it, well, yeah, that's interesting because even though, like, as human beings, we're so much the same, we're also so different. And so, a lot of times when people eat the same foods a lot, we're like, a lot of times we fall into patterns where we have our thing, right? Like, I don't know, love to eat cheese or we love to eat, bread or whatever it is. A lot of times when we fall into these patterns of eating the same things over and over again, our body starts to create a sensitivity to it because it's just too much. So there's certain things that people become very sensitive to. I mean, wheat is a big one. We all hear the gluten scare, right? And so wheat's a big one people become sensitive to. Dairy's a really big one too. And then, so dairy being milk or cheese, anything in that realm. And then eggs, for some reason, a lot of people are really sensitive to eggs, and I think it's just because as a society we overeat eggs. It's like eggs in everything, eggs for breakfast, and so our bodies just start to want to, they just don't like it as much, and so our bodies become sensitive to it. And if we look at like from an ancestral perspective, like our ancestors would eat certain foods certain times of the year because let's say, you might have all these great fresh berries and fruit in the summer, but you don't have that in the winter, right? You're going to be eating a totally different set of foods. And so with the availability that we have, with food, we could eat, let's say, blueberries all year round, and so we could become sensitive to things like that we're eating too much of, and so it's kind of built in our genetic code to like eat foods and then take breaks from them, but just because of our food supply, we don't typically do that. And then, a lot of people are mineral deficient. That's another thing that's really big. A lot of people I find are mineral deficient just because they take a vitamin, but they don't take it with mineral in it. So I find that a lot with people as well.
Interesting. Which all minerals, or is there certain ones that seem to be more common than
It's
others?
just, yeah, it's just different with every single person. It's hard to say. I mean, everybody has different environmental factors in their life, like whether it's the type of foods that they're eating or maybe the stress that they're enduring on a daily basis. So, everybody shows up with different findings. So I would just say minerals in general. A lot of times we see that. And then lastly, a lot of people have toxicity issues. And so toxicity is referring to toxicity at a cellular level. So I don't know if you've ever checked out our like website and saw that we focus a lot in cellular nutrition and look at cellular toxicity and all of that. If you haven't, go to newvisionexcel.com and you can see that. But people become very toxic due to using really toxic cleaners in their house, eating toxic food, and just being around just toxins everywhere in our environment that we have so many toxins around us that it's just become too much. And though our body has a natural ability to detox, that's what the liver does. It keeps the junk out of our systems, and purifies our blood. But on the same hand, there comes a certain point where our body can't take it anymore. And so when you're eating a lot of junk food and you're eating a poor diet, and let's say eating vegetables that are covered in pesticides and all these different things that they're spraying on our food supply anymore, there's comes a certain point where, in science we call it the bucket theory, where your body takes so much of it, and then there's a spillover point. And when you hit that spillover point, that's when you start to get very sick. That's when you get to all these symptoms and weird conditions that start to show up. So we do a lot of detoxification here as well. And so that's very important too, is making sure that you detoxify your body.
So when you say detoxify your body, like what are the toxins? Are we talking mercury or lead or something totally different?
No, absolutely. Mercury, lead, those are huge ones. So, for instance, let's look at it from this perspective. So, a lot of people go and get the silver fillings in their mouth, right? The amalgam mercury fillings, and when they get those mercury fillings in their mouth, what happens is that mercury vapor, it literally just pours those toxins into the body for years and years and years. And then that mercury actually goes and it gets stored in the deep fat tissues of the body, such as the brain. So, when you get somebody who has a lot of strange conditions showing up, let's say thyroid and hormonal issues and all these different things that are just odd and nobody can really put their finger on it, you can a lot of times look to things such as toxicity, where their brain's not firing correctly, their brain's not sending the proper signals that is, creating the proper hormones, and the neurotransmitters aren't working correctly. So we start to have all this like, basically the circuits are all misfunctioning in the body. And then next thing you find out that the person's had amalgam fillings for 20 years, and this mercury vapor has just been pouring in their body for 20 years. And so anyway, that creates a huge toxicity problem for the body. And you have to get those heavy metals back out if that's the case. Some people have a lot of lead in their system, and some people may have not even had lead exposures, but because their mother had serious lead exposures and seriously high lead levels in her body, then the baby is also going to have high lead levels in their body as well. So, you may not have even had exposure yourself, but because your mother did, then she passed that down to you. And so you could become very toxic and just have a lifetime of just different complications that you don't understand. And then next thing you know, you get tested for lead and it's off the charts or something like that. So, there's a lot of different scenarios that I've seen out there, and you just have to be aware of all of them. And the heavy metals really just cause the body to go haywire in so many different ways. So it's important to first of all test and see if you have them, and then from there go through a detoxification process to remove them.
What does a detoxification process, what does it look like? Are we talking like chelation? I forget how to pronounce that.
Chelation, yeah.
Chelation, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's chelation. There's, when we talk detoxification in our clinic, what we're referring to is cellular detoxification. So, what that means is we're detoxing the 70 plus trillion cells in the body. And so, what happens is, there's tons of detoxes out there. There's liver detoxes, there's foot baths, and there's all these different versions of detoxes. But the only detox that we consider to be a real detox here is cellular detoxification. So what happens is at a cellular level, the cells get loaded with toxins. The cell membrane becomes inflamed. The good nutrients can't get into the cell. The waste can't get back out of the cell. We create all these inflamed cells in our body, and now we have a big inflammatory issue in the body, and inflammatory issues in the body leads to diabetes, cancer, heart disease, you name it, and the list goes on and on and on. And so in order to actually detox the body, we actually have to fix the cell. And so when we talk about detoxification, we're talking about one of the furthest upstream ways to detox, and that's detoxing at a cellular level.
How does that process work though exactly? So you say you're doing that, like what would the steps be for me if I want to detoxify that at a cellular level?
Yeah. Okay. So basically, what you have to do is, we have detoxification products, and so in these detoxification products, what they're designed to do is first of all fix the cell. So first of all, what we do is we work on taking a good quality, healthy fat and make sure that we are giving or we're having somebody take that. So we want to make sure that we're giving the cell the proper building blocks. So we start looking at all the different components of the cell and what is actually needed to heal the cell. And so we start putting those different components into the body so that the cell has the right nutrients to heal. And then through the detox product that we offer, what it is designed to do is first of all heal the cell membrane, but also from there raise things in the cell such as glutathione. Glutathione is one of the master antioxidants in the cell, and if you were didn't have glutathione in the cell, and the cell would die. It'd go through program cell death, which is called apoptosis. And so when through this formulation, which includes glutathione, what happens is it starts boosting up the antioxidant levels in the cell. It starts actually healing the cell membrane. And what happens is the cell begins to cleanse itself. And so there's a two-part system that we use. One is actually designed to heal the cell itself, and then the other one is designed to actually so the one is designed to heal the cell and push the toxins out of the cell, I should say. And the other product that we use is designed to actually bind these toxins up and help remove them from the body. And so when we do this detox process, one product pushes toxins out, the other one makes sure that it binds it in your gut so that your body eliminates it, and then you're not retoxifying yourself through reabsorption. And then that's how we do a true cell detox here.
Awesome. Very cool. I want to shift gears here a little bit and talk a little bit more about the kind of entrepreneurial journey and how you got involved, how you started this company, and how you're able to, I believe now you're full income, or you're able to work full time online, which is something that a lot of the listeners and a lot of people in the world would love to do. How did you transition into getting your first client or selling your first product? How did that happen?
The way that we started, I had mentioned to you before, I was like, we don't have some like really sexy story about how we did this product launch and made six figures. What I did is just through relationships and friendships and word of mouth. That is how we built a business. I am such a believer in the fact that people have the ability to vote with their money. As in, if you offer a good service, they're going to vote in your favor. If you offer a good product, they're going to vote in your favor. And they're voting with their dollar, okay? And they're going to also vote in your favor by telling friends about you. So, originally when we started, I had brought on clients just through relationships, as in, so and so knows what I'm doing, and they told their friend, and they got me a meeting with a executive at a company, and next thing you know, I'm taking care of the company's executive team, and so relationships is very important, I believe, when it comes to building a business. And so we really started off of really good relationships, and of course, getting good results. Okay, and I think in any business, whether if like if you're going to be doing some sort of coaching, or for us in the health industry, like results matter. That matters big time, because there's so many people who actually have a lot of health problems, and they just go through this gamut of spending money and never getting results. So results matter. And like for me, I feel guilty taking people's money if I don't get results. And I know that, I'm not God, so I can't just heal. I can't heal everybody, right? Or I can't promise a healing to occur, but we sure do our best to make sure we are really getting the results that we would like to see. And so results matter. And then, through that word of mouth, you continue to build clients, and then also treating people really well, treating people the way that you want to be treated. I don't know about you, but when it comes to being a customer somewhere, I'm like that guy who's going like, yeah, I really want to be treated really, really good. Like, and because I'm like that, I also do the same things for our customers, our clients, our patients. Like I want them to have the best customer experience that they've ever had. And I can tell you that, I know who my competitors are, and I can tell you that, like, people have such a better experience when they're working with us versus some of our competitors. And it's just because, like, I pay attention to the details on how they're treated, how they're talked to, how they're addressed. I mean, I'm really a details person when it comes to, looking at the overall experience. I want, when people to work with us, for it to be an experience. And so, with that said, and that's probably pretty long-winded, but that's really the gist of how we started building this business. And then it wasn't till after that, um, then we said, you know what, we have been, we've been doing pretty good what we've been doing, but we really need to look into getting online a little bit. And then from there, we started, we started the our Facebook page, so New Vision Excel Facebook page. We started a community, so that we can actually go in there, and just like people can come in for free. Let's say some people are just looking for some general health advice, and so we put a whole bunch of health minded people in a community, and it's just good people helping people. And so we started, we went online, we started doing those. I started blogging quite a bit. And so we just started creating this presence online, a presence that we never had prior to that. And so, and then once again, treating people well. I mean, it's really great when somebody, picks up articles that I write and shares them, and people go on and rave to somebody else, about the products that you have and the services that you offer. And so it's just, for me, that's the strategy that works best. There's some people who are just like web gurus out there that can create ads that do really incredible and sell not so great product, and sell millions of them, and make it appear as if it's going to like change somebody's life forever. Like that's not really how I operate. We're not really good at doing that type of thing. And so, just a ground up model is how we started.
That's okay. That's good advice. I'm going to dig in a little bit deeper though on some of that. The first client that you got, then you said it was just kind of uh not word of mouth, but like like a friend kind of set it up. Who do you remember who your first client was and how that actually, because that's often the scariest part for people is getting that first person to actually hand over the money. I don't know if you remember that story, and if you do, can you share that?
Yeah, I do I do remember that because there was a time where I tried to be so polished. Like, we learn like, oh, in order to sell, you have to be this way and you have to act this way and you got to have this body language and you got to, we learn all this like nonsense. I can tell you today, I am probably the most like atypical person as far as like, even being a doctor. Like, I walk into the room and I treat somebody like they're my best friend. I'm just like, I don't have all these barriers. But when I first started, yeah, I was like so polished and like I had worked under this other doctor, and it's like, this is how you talk to people, and being of an entrepreneurial spirit. I had an idea how these things work, but yeah, I was scared to death, and I remember trying to be so polished, and I had there was I had read the book Spin Selling, and they really what they do in that book is they go through and they break down like how people were very successful with selling. So they take all these different salespeople and they're like, well, these people were successful that did this, and the people who said this on the phone weren't successful. And so they break down all the different things that made salespeople successful and actually made salespeople fail. And so I remember like taking some of those guidelines into consideration, and yeah, just being really scared to death. And but then the person the I yeah, I do remember, the gentleman said yes, like, I want to do this, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is so amazing, like.
Mm.
And so you get all that anxiety built up, but yeah, getting that first person under your belt can be a little bit tough, just because of the mental, not because you don't have the capability. I mean, of course you have the capability to do it. You create stories in your mind that aren't real, of maybe why you don't deserve it or why they'll say no or whatever the case is. But in part of me too, sometimes I have stupid confidence, in a way, like I'm just like, oh yeah, this is done deal. Like, I'm gonna do this, and we're gonna see success with it. I don't even think twice. But with the first client, yeah, it's always a little bit of anxiety, and it can be tough at first. But I mean, you just have to go for it. You just have to know what your pitch is gonna be, and you give that pitch, and if they say yes, they say yes. That's what one guy said to me one time. He's like, sometimes you just gotta throw the pitch. Like, if they hit, then high five. You can't get so scared that you never throw the pitch. So just throw the pitch and see what happens.
Absolutely. And I'm sure for this next question, some of it, what you just said will be advice, but do you have any other advice? If, let's say someone they do have a corporate job or they're just graduated college and they know that what they want to do is become some kind of a coach. We could say it's a health coach or just a business coach or whatever it might be. What advice would you have for someone starting off in this kind of a field?
Yeah, I mean, my advice is to first of all, don't make up a bunch of stories of why you're going to fail. It's never the stories you tell yourself. It's or it's never the facts that stop you from achieving your goals. It's the stories you tell yourself why it can't be done. So we all create these stories in our mind that why we might fail at something, why we're not good enough, why we don't deserve it, or it's stories. Like, it's nonsense, and I do it too. Like, I'm not exempt from that. So you have to look at these barriers and realize that a lot of them are just completely made up, and you're making them up. Um, so, first of all, these barriers, you have to learn to break through them. And I tell you, once you get good at it, it feels pretty good. But you have to learn to break through these barriers, and then once you can break through them, you just have to really be good at what you're doing. So me being in the health field, like, I see people who are health coaches left and right, and they're just pitching complete crap. Like, I mean, the stuff doesn't even make sense. And even like, for instance, there was a young guy, bragging about a younger guy who bragged about how he spent 10,000 hours of it dedicated to learning about a particular health topic so that he could teach people. I'm like, anybody with any ounce of common sense knows that's not true. I got a doctorate and I don't even know that I spent 10,000 hours, you know? I spent
Right.
like 8 years in school and I don't know if that's 10,000 hours. So like don't, first of all, be good at what you're going to do, and then be real. Like, um, you know, you just have to be real and treat people like human beings. People are smart. Like, if you're gonna treat them like they're an idiot, or treat them like they don't know better, like, you're not going to do well. I mean, I do well because I treat people like I want to be treated. And believe it or not, in the health field, that's can be hard to come by. I mean, how many doctors' offices do you go to and they just like take no consideration for your feelings, for your own wishes or anything, and they just tell you what they want you to do. So, treat people like you want to be treated, offer an incredible product, and be you. Like, your personality, actually, if you're going to be a health coach, or if you're going to be, a coach of any sort, like, your personality really matters. A lot of times we try to be somebody else, because we see someone else who's super successful and it's like, well, if I'm like Tony Robbins, I'll be successful too. Well, no, like, Tony Robbins is successful because he is his own personality, and so you have to be your own personality as well. And so I mean, I think that might answer your question.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, no, that totally does. So I want to be respectful of your time. I have one last major question from you, and then we'll wrap things up. The last major question, and you can take this in any direction you want. It could be health, entrepreneurship, anything. But if you had to go back and tell your, let's say, 25-year-old self something, give yourself some advice, what would you say to yourself, and what would you say to this audience as a whole, I guess?
Well, we'd have to go back a little bit further because I'm only 28.
I didn't
um,
realize you were so young. That's awesome.
yeah, so yeah, we'd have to step back a little bit further.
Well, I mean, you could even just for other 20 somethings out there, basically. It could be.
Yeah, I mean, if I could go back and tell myself, that's a good question. You know, one of the things that was always a struggle for me for a while is judging myself and my progress off of other people's progress. So, I would certainly like just try to be me and not like base my progress off of, oh, this person is so successful and I'm not, because a lot of times, like, what somebody appears to be, they're really not, if that makes sense. So, I mean, I could go through my Facebook feed right now and everybody's a millionaire trying to sell me how they made seven figures. Like, that's just kind of the world that I hang out in. And I get all these, because of that entrepreneurial world that I'm in, I get all these sponsors that show up on my Facebook feed. And so, like, that's totally not real. And most of these people, because I know some of them, they can't even pay their own bar tab. So, but yet they somehow got a video with a Lamborghini. So, like, don't compare your success towards somebody else's success. And then, the other thing that I would do is I would probably pay more attention to my health, because, the reason I am so passionate about health and well-being is because of some serious health struggles that I had. And so, like, pay attention to your health, and then just, work hard, and then slow and steady wins the race. I am like the type of guy, and I'm still fighting this today, even, that, like, I have to have, this or this type of success by tomorrow. And really, like, I'm still, like I said, I'm still working on that. I still fight that, where, I just want to be like, the top doctor for entrepreneurs tomorrow. However, it takes time. So, give yourself time, and get too worked up when you're not getting that overnight success, because slow and steady wins the race.
That's great advice. Nick, where can people find out more about you?
Absolutely. You can go to newvisionexcel.com. We have a full, like, health-based website where we, do blog articles, and you can contact me on there. You could So you can figure out mostly about what I do right there. You can hit us up on Facebook, New Vision Excel Facebook page, and then through all the different social medias. We're on Instagram, Facebook, you name it. We have a podcast as well that you can jump into. We actually got a really awesome interview we're about to release with Dan Sullivan, who is he's the owner of Strategic Coach and one of the top entrepreneurs out there. So you might want to check that out too. And so, you could check us out, newvisionexcel.com, and that's where you'll find out more about me.
That's awesome. Thank you, Nick, so much for coming on the episode. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Travis. It was great being on with you guys.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. And if you did, make sure you hit the big red subscribe button down below. You can also check me out on Facebook and on Twitter. And I release a new video every Monday, and by hitting that subscribe button, you'll get those new videos every Monday. And this is really a podcast. It's also a website. You can check out the website. It's howtodoyour20s.com. I'll put a link right over here as well. And what it's all about is trying to improve your life. And we specifically focus on things that people in their 20s are interested in. So make sure you like the video if you liked it, subscribe, like us on Facebook and Twitter, whatever. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you again on another video.